welcome to this week's Penny Skelton Show. I'm very pleased this week to have a conversation with three people who know a lot about the current housing market in our area, whether people have roofs over their heads or not. And there's a very exciting week coming up, May 18th to 24th, and it's called the YIMBY Week. And I'm very pleased to welcome Jennifer Van Gennip, Marg Scheben-Edey, our housing baddie or advocate, and Councillor Doherty from the town of Collingwood. So how do we three people know each other?
Well, Marg and I,
Yes.
Marg and I go back
40
years.
Yeah.
Since we were both independent business owners, but now we sit on the Affordable Housing Task Force for the town of Collingwood.
Okay, and how long have we had the task force?
Since 2021, I think we established the task force.
Okay. And this is a committee of council?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a very important committee of council because it's the only committee where there's actually 3 members of council that are on it. So we have
that's amazing.
The deputy mayor, Councillor Rob Ring, and
yourself.
Myself.
Wow. What is the purpose of the committee? Because the town would have had to set that.
Yeah, we know that we have a housing crisis.
Okay.
But we needed to get a hold of the magnitude.
Okay.
Once we know the magnitude, then we can start planning a strategy to address it. So we did do a housing needs assessment that was initiated by the Affordable Housing Task Force, which came back to us and said, yes, you have a problem.
Neon letters, yes.
Yes. We had the deficit, and Marg, you know the numbers better than me, was some 900 to 1,000 affordable housing units needed.
Okay.
And that's only growing as our community
That
has
was
grown.
2021.
Yeah.
It's around 3,500 now.
Okay.
It's our estimate. Yeah.
So now we know. So it's data driven. So what are the solutions? And our Affordable Housing Task Force have engaged specialists in the market. They are represented by different sectors in the community. And we are working now on many different ways, really, to address the issue because there's no silver bullet with affordable housing.
No, and we have all levels of government that have gotten out of the building housing market.
Thank you for saying that,
Yes.
because you're right.
Yeah. I mean, there have been municipal projects in the past, there have been provincial projects in the past, and there have been particularly the feds. Used to be really big on it, and they've all gone into the ether.
Well, they did.
Yep.
They did. They're
in the
coming back,
90s,
yes.
But the current government established the National Housing Act in 2019, 2017, but 2019.
It came around in 2019.
That it came around and have at this point already put $60 billion into housing since
That's
then.
B with
So that's been a
billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. So that's some serious money.
It is.
Now, Jennifer, what is Redwood Park Communities? This may be a whole new concept to some people in this area.
Sure. So Redwood is a charity. So we're an affordable housing charity.
Okay.
And founded in 2009. So
been around for a while.
Yes, we've celebrated 15 years last year.
Congrats.
Thank you. So we serve all of Simcoe County.
Okay.
And our
Nice local grassroots group.
very grassroots. Extremely grassroots. And then, so our mission is to create safe, affordable, hopeful housing where people thrive in supportive community.
Nice.
Yeah. You want to live there?
Nice.
Yeah.
Succinct. Now, you started out with the concept. As you've gone through your 15 years, what sort of projects have you had?
So our first project is called United House, and it's in Barrie. It's a partnership with the Women and Children's Shelter in Barrie.
Okay.
So it's 5 apartments for women who are coming through the women's shelter.
Okay.
Who
So
have experience in
transitioning.
Yeah. So those are transitional affordable housing apartments. So we started with 5, and we're up to, I think, 57 now across 7 different housing communities. Thank you. And each one serves a slightly different demographic and is sort of tailored to the needs of that demographic.
Okay. No, you said that was your first project. Do you have a second?
We do. We do. We have Jubilee House in Aurelia, so it was run as Couchiching Jubilee House, and now it is under Redwood.
Under
They're
Redwood.
celebrating 25 years this year as a house.
Okay.
That house is also for women and their children. We have Lucy's Place, which is a partnership with Busby Center in Barrie. So that's Simcoe County's first housing first community for people who have experienced chronic homelessness. This was a motel renovation that helped created across the 3 phases, 24 units. Of deeply subsidized and supportive housing for people who have experienced a lot of trauma in their homelessness experience. Lillian Place is for families. We've had some second suites. Ayoub's House is for men who have jobs but can't find housing, or trades training.
So you are really reflective of our communities today.
Yes.
We have people who have jobs but not homes. We have people who have homes but not jobs. Like we've got, there's such a strata. It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Marg, you're my demographics person. Who can afford to live here?
Nobody.
Nobody. Okay.
Actually,
Show's over.
it is really interesting when you look at it. Like our average incomes that we have in the area, there's nothing that is affordable in Collingwood that would match those average incomes. So people already have housing. They may have secured it when it was lower priced. But if somebody today needs housing in the community and is working at the average wage rate of a family in Collingwood, there's nothing.
I did, as a little part of research, I went on MLS just to look at what's for sale. They mostly start at $1 million.
Yeah.
Like in fact, I remember when the first listing hit for this area for $1 million. It was big news.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
And it sold. And today there are no starter homes.
Right.
There are no smaller units, and a lot of the older, smaller units are being bought basically as building lots.
Yeah.
This must be a challenge for council.
Yeah.
Because you can't really tell people what to put on there, can you?
It certainly is. Council would love to have a bylaw whereby we could protect some of these lower priced, smaller units, but you can't.
You can't.
People buy the property, they're entitled to do
It's free
what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think one of our focuses, though, has been around rental.
Yes.
We've identified that our greatest need in the community
Yeah.
rental.
by far, when we look at who's in core housing need,
Yeah.
would be rental households. Renter households statistically earn, on average, 50% of what homeowner households do. So if we look at the actual rental incomes, renter household incomes, the affordability rate in Collingwood right now ranges from $1,200 to $1,700 a month.
Is there anything available in that?
You can't get a bachelor apartment for $1,700, let alone if you're a family with
I think
a
they
child or two
pretty well all
children.
start with a 2, don't they?
So then what we did is we took a look at all the occupations in Collingwood. I think I actually might have sent you a
Yeah,
chart.
I think we can put it up on the screen.
You're talking about police officers, healthcare workers, administrators, construction workers. They all fall below the income level of what a rental or a house would be in Collingwood, by far, not by a little bit.
Is it much different if we go to Wasaga Beach or Blue Mountains or no? And Clear, yeah, okay.
Not a lot. No.
Not a lot, no. I mean, I was even looking at houses in Stayner, and I thought, wow, Stayner's come up the pike, shall we say?
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I mean, for those who are building them, I can understand. But what I don't understand, and probably nobody can answer this, why do we not build the little wartime houses that had 2 or 3 bedrooms,
I can answer that.
small bedrooms?
You go ahead.
And have a yard
I
and a
have a
place to
theory
start.
too, but
I
you
would
go ahead.
Say when you're looking at private sector development, developers, the cost of land is so expensive. So
True.
by the time you've bought the land, when you're going to build on there on a per square foot cost
Right.
basis, to get your money and your profit back out, you got
Yeah.
to build big, sell big, right? So the little houses aren't giving them the profit return.
Returns that they need. Okay.
And that has been restricted in past years by our zoning bylaw. Our zoning has been very much focused on single-family homes.
Yeah.
Now there's a recognition, and in fact in Collingwood, we've essentially eliminated single-family home zones.
Okay.
Because as a matter of right, you can now have 4 units per lot. So, but we have a history
And that's
of
fairly
one
recent.
unit, one lot.
That's new.
So,
Yes.
That's-
yeah, it
yeah.
is. It's-
And
Yes,
It's the current council.
less than a year,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's not
Provincially,
just
it's
Collingwood.
provincially it's 3. Collingwood went
went four.
one more. So, you know, that certainly would be part of the reason. But having said that, one of the parties that's running for the election is proposing bringing back housing catalogs, where the federal
Okay.
government would be getting back into the business. Wartime houses were built by the federal government,
Yeah.
and then they got out of that
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about getting back into it.
So we don't have a lot of land left in Collingwood, do we, Councillor Doherty? Is that why they're buying them and tearing them down?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We're virtually
landlocked,
landlocked. I mean, the green fields that we have right now are, many of them are have been purchased by developers and
Yeah.
are in some stage of the
working through.
design and approval process. So,
interesting.
and the town doesn't own a lot of land, like large pieces of land.
no.
So, but we have lots of, unopened road allowances
Yeah.
and such. And council is starting to become of the view that maybe we should start using those if they're big enough, maybe for a
Build
small
something.
building lot.
Yeah.
And we can put 1 or 2 or 3 units, then that becomes almost immediately
Yep.
way more affordable than if it were land purchased by private sector and then built
for profit.
privately.
Yeah, privately
Built
for profit. Interesting. We're almost up to our first break, but I just find it interesting that I know the housing world is looking at putting like 4-story units on one town lot.
4 units.
4 units on one town lot, sorry, as we go forward. And it's kind of interesting because that would help to reduce some of the squeeze that we have currently.
Oh, absolutely.
Gentle
Yeah.
density.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Well, I like that term, gentle density.
Yeah.
It
I do
blends
know
into
down the
neighborhoods.
street from me, a lady's put on an addition at the back, which is an ADU, a second unit, which is, we're going, yay, good for you.
Yeah.
But as we're up to our first break, join us when we come back, and I'm going to say, I want a sign that says, this is the best I could get, yes, I'm a backyard YIMBY. So come back and find out what that is. Welcome back. I'm very pleased this week to be talking about YIMBYism, gentle density. Have you ever heard any of these terms? Are you curious to know more? These 3 people sitting at my table know a lot about them. Affordable, we've got a lot of words. Affordable, attainable, gentle density. So, Jennifer, what is gentle density?
So
Is it massaging something?
that sounds lovely. Well, sometimes we say gentle intensification as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just the idea of building up within the part of your town or city that already has infrastructure, rather
Okay.
than going into a field that has no infrastructure and
Okay.
starting from scratch. So sprawl isn't really the answer to
No.
a lot of our affordable
No.
housing problems, because the cost of building out there is quite high. You're not building-
Astronomical, because you have to start from less than ground zero.
yeah.
Okay.
So actually, your viewers might be interested. Ottawa did a study because they were trying to determine to what degree is gentle intensification better
Okay.
than sprawl. So they did a study, and it's a very long, complicated study with lots of math formulas, but what they found was that when they build sprawl,
Yes.
that costs Ottawa citizens, I think it was $465 per person per year to support sprawl. But when they do intensification, so like apartment buildings, on existing electricity grids and everything, it saves $606 per person per year.
Wow.
So the difference, like, that's a huge difference, and that's money that can go to libraries,
Well, it's money
schools.
staying in as opposed to going out.
Absolutely. And so people sometimes think, oh, I don't really care, sprawl, like, I don't want it in my backyard. I'd rather it be out in a field. But it doesn't affect me. It absolutely affects every taxpayer, 100%. So, yeah.
It's interesting. And I think somehow we have to take, and I love your website because there are puzzle pieces.
Yes.
and that's kind of figure out how you put the puzzle together. Because Marg knows me from standing up and speaking when she was working so desperately hard on Out of the Cold. And there was a public meeting in which people stood up and were neighbors of a site, and they were very much against it. And it was, I finally set up, okay, everybody here so far has been a NIMBY. I'm a YIMBY.
Except one person.
Yeah, I was, and a lot of people came up to me afterward or contacted me afterwards, and I said, what are you afraid of? And I mean, it always becomes the type of people something's going to attract. Their socioeconomic conditions. Somebody might just be really falling on hard times and not be able to afford something. People can lose their job in a heartbeat. And how far is anyone away from? How deep are the savings?
Absolutely.
And how long can you sustain yourself going forward? So if I'm not Pollyanna, I'm a YIMBY.
Yes.
And in most things, I'm a YIMBY. I'm a yes. I'm a mixed neighborhood person. I'm a Jane Jacobs advocate. The book she wrote and the way she said we need to have, and I think in our world, we have Collingwood I grew up in, I'm going to sound old now, did not have development companies coming in and putting up subdivisions.
Right.
The door's on this side, the door's on that side, the door's yellow, the door's red, that type of thing. But now we do. And it's a very different approach to the cost of housing. So I'm wondering, I know the town has tried to bring out different proposals out of people and has tried I know the mayor's used affordable, attainable, tried to talk to some of the developers about including things, but you didn't have the tools as a council to affect change.
Yeah, that's right. So what you're actually talking about is inclusionary zoning, where you can compel a developer to provide you with, X percentage of, 80% at least of average market value. But that is only a provincial tool that's available to larger municipalities. And AMO...
We're not big enough?
We're not big enough.
Okay, there's the answer.
Association of Municipalities of Ontario, on which I am a board member, did advocate to expand inclusionary zoning, but the minister... It was denied.
It was denied.
So, but we have other tools, and the best tool that we have right now is the fact that we have limited availability of drinking water until our water treatment plant is expanded.
Right.
So we had to develop a way in which we could allocate what we have to the best benefit of the community.
As a whole?
As a whole.
Okay.
So we came up with our SCAP program, which you may have heard, Servicing Capacity Allocation Policy. And it forces the developer to be scored and satisfy 6 different criteria.
Okay.
So, you know, sustainability, you know, number of units, infrastructure requirements, how quickly they're ready to
Shovels on the
go,
ground.
shovels on the ground, affordability, and sustainability. And the best score gets the water.
Okay.
That is, and you know, so we really, it was a situation where truly we were able to make lemonade out of lemons.
Perfect.
So you know,
I like a municipal
And-
win.
And how that has actually played out is we have had a couple of multi-residential developers who
Right.
have said,
Yep.
okay, I will guarantee that, you know, 5% of, which is, you know, it's not
Yeah.
huge, but it's
No.
something. 5% of our units
But
will
every
be.
one that comes up, if you get 5%.
Yeah, it adds up. One of the best opportunities that we have, we did work with a developer to provide about 10% of his units at below market.
Okay.
So when he actually did the pro forma on that, you know, based on cost of materials today and so on, it wasn't going to work for him. But
Okay.
he gave the town $1 million donation
Okay.
against our affordable housing reserves. So,
Okay.
you know,
There's money in the bank.
There's money, like $1 million. That's
Yeah.
nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely
So,
nothing.
you know, those are the programs that we can work with, and I sincerely hope that once we do have lots of available
Yeah.
water, which right now is probably not going to be until 2030, but at that time, that we keep the SCAP program.
I hope so.
Yeah, be interesting.
You know, one of the challenges, Penny, is that we have had people come forward with some really innovative ideas of things that they would like to do. There's a proposal actually right now on the table that don't 100% fit zoning, but should.
Should, okay.
Because they certainly would represent gentle intensification.
Okay.
Everybody thinks it's a great idea until it's next door to them. And that's the
Okay.
NIMBY, right?
Yeah.
The
That's
not in
the
my
yeah.
backyard. And
Yeah.
like you say, what are people afraid of? So what Jennifer started in Simcoe County was YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard, right? We need, right now in Collingwood, every development proposal that comes up is met with objection from
Yeah.
immediate, I mean, every one of them.
Yeah.
And what happens then is it's assumed it's going to be a negotiation, so developers come in asking for more than they're expecting, and it delays because it's
Okay.
a lot of time,
Yeah.
and
And every delay
That's
puts
money.
the price up.
Yeah. Yeah, prices are not going down.
no.
Well, we saw what happened in the town of the Blue Mountains with
Yes.
the Attainable Housing Corporation.
Yeah.
They had a quote, the numbers penciled out, it
Yep.
worked for
Yep.
affordable housing, and then there were objections that drew it out an additional
Yeah.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
By the time they got through that process, it didn't
dissolved.
pencil out anymore.
No.
Yeah.
So time is money when
Yes.
it comes to
Yes.
housing.
Absolutely.
It's, are there successful communities out there that have managed to build what's needed?
Yeah, Vienna.
Yeah.
You've been on a road trip, so to speak.
No, it's
I actually have.
Yeah. Europe
Yeah.
gets it, and they
Yeah.
have done
Yeah.
for years, and most, like Czechoslovakia is another one. They,
Well, so many of them, they live in apartments.
And they don't own them, so they're
No.
they're
Yeah.
what we would
Government
call social housing, but it's not stigmatized in any way. It's
Interesting.
normal.
Yeah.
We have a very different relationship to
Yep.
social housing in Canada
Yes.
and to home ownership in Canada than a
Yeah.
lot of other
We
European countries.
we in Canada have a lot of names for things.
We also have a lot of names for things.
We have a lot of names for things. So we've got a couple of minutes before our next break, but after the next break, I want to come back and really talk what is the YIMBY week, because it's an important week coming up. What do you see as a housing advocate, Marg? What do you see as the biggest challenge here?
I think our biggest challenge is, like I say, we have a shortfall now of
Yeah.
probably 3,500 units that people
Yep.
can afford to live
Yep.
in based on wage rates
Yep.
in our area. But we also are, so we're a designated growth area by the province, and we're expected to add 17,000 people in the next 25 years. That represents over 6,000
So that
households.
means we need 20,000.
That represents,
Yeah.
I think, another
Yeah.
6,500 households. And again,
So that's
other than
10,000.
people, millionaires coming in
Yeah.
and buying them, you know, and we need to have a labor force to support that. Look at a new hospital. How many
Yeah,
people
there's
will
an
that employ?
interesting balance between, and also how far out can you go to afford to live
Right.
and still work here?
Right.
Right.
If in fact you're using a tank of
And
gas
in the
every other
past,
day.
everybody was going to Shelburne. Well, now go
Yeah.
to Shelburne.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
construction, and prices that are going up. It's happening everywhere. So to me, our biggest pressure here, because we haven't talked about the good things happening here.
We'll get to that.
When you ask if there is a community, Collingwood is considered now a thought leader across the country. We get Whistler calling us for advice. Like, it's unbelievable. And we have had a lot of accomplishments. Our probably biggest challenge, other than money, and we always need money, is NIMBYism. It's a
Interesting.
major problem in Collingwood.
And I guess when we get into our next break, I really want to talk about NIMBYism versus YIMBYism.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where the YIMBYism, why the YIMBYism has to come, or why the NIMBYism had to come. Because these people don't bite, they live in their homes, and they contribute to society. So when we come back after this break, Jennifer's going to tell us all about YIMBY Week. Welcome back. This show this week is talking about housing in our community. I'm going to say communities because it's not just Collingwood, it's Wasaga Beach, it's Clearview, it's Town of Blue Mountains, and it's not affordable. We're not even talking about purchasing. We're talking mostly about renting. And we don't have the rental units. And nobody's really building them in any great numbers. So we're hoping with the federal election on the horizon, we will have someone committed to housing projects across the country, and we will have people who will be able to move into homes. And I mean, when I say homes, it can be a one-bedroom apartment.
Absolutely.
It can be a
Home is
two-bedroom
Home is
apartment.
home.
Home is home, and it's a roof over your head. So Jennifer, I love you came all the way to us from Barrie. So what will our YIMBY week be like?
So
What do we do?
Well,
Do we have a parade? Do we protest?
I wish we had a parade. So this was something that I wanted to start 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I talked to my CEO, who's
Okay.
Tim Kent at Redwood, and I said, this is what I want to do. He's like, okay, let's do it. But it has to include lawn signs. And I was like, what are you talking about? He says,
That's a great first criteria.
Great first step. So
Well, do you know what it is? It's a political button.
So we have lawn signs.
Okay.
So if you make a donation to Redwood, we'll bring you a lawn sign anywhere in
Okay.
Simcoe County between now and the end of YIMBY Week.
Okay.
And then the next thing we wanted to do was do a
And
flag
you're going to
raising.
cement it in your front.
Yeah,
yard.
right? Exactly. And then we thought, let's do a flag raising. So we called the office of the mayor in Barrie, and she said, yeah, if you've got a flag, we can do a
We
flag
can raise
raising.
it. Okay.
She said, what about a proclamation? And I said, oh, that sounds like a great idea, because I didn't know what.
Yeah.
I'd never made up a week before, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Okay.
So we said, what about or she said, what about a proclamation? And I said, awesome, how does that happen? She said, well, you just write it up, and then you send it over, and we put it on letterhead, and then it's the
And
proclamation.
we announce it.
So we just made up a proclamation.
Okay.
And so that's where it started.
Okay.
And then We also had like a meeting, you know, like it was
Okay,
an
yeah.
event, like a
Like
conversation,
a
roundtable discussion.
Or open house or whatever, yeah.
Well, and actually in 2019 we had a lot happening. So we had the groundbreaking of Lillian Place. We opened our furniture bank that week.
okay.
We did the ribbon cutting at Lucy's Place that week. It's actually a very packed week. It was hard to follow up because the next year it was COVID. So then everything moved
COVID
online.
kind of killed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so then everything moved online, but it was neat because we could have virtual panels
Right.
and webinars with experts from all over. So we had a conversation about gentle intensification.
Okay.
We talked about housing as a human right. We had a couple different
Now, you
good
told me
panels.
something in the break that I did
I
not
did.
know.
Yeah.
In Canada, housing has been a human right for, guess how many years?
6.
I would have thought a lot longer than that.
So I happened to be in Ottawa and I found out that the law that would make housing a human right was being
Presented in Parliament?
yeah, but the part where the lieutenant governor comes and does the whole
Oh,
thing,
does the
the whole
signing.
thing, the
Okay.
signing of them at
Yep.
the end of the session, and so I actually went to the Senate building and watched that be
Nice.
done. So it was, I can tell you, it was on June 21st of 2019 is when housing as a human right became law
Wow.
in Canada. But we were talking about how in Europe they have because it's been enshrined in international law since 1948.
Okay. But they're also heck of a lot older than we are
Yes.
in Europe, and their buildings.
Yes, and so Europe has a different relationship with
So that's
international
just
law.
post-war, which is
That's
interesting.
true too.
Yeah.
It's actually not
48.
super long time ago. So they have a different relationship with housing as a human right in Europe.
Okay.
Or actually, they have a different relationship with international laws in
Laws
Europe.
as
And
well,
they're
okay.
binding in
Okay.
Europe, and they're not considered binding in Canada, which
Oh, interesting.
doesn't
Okay.
really make a lot of sense to me. But that's the way it works. So Canada made it a law as part of the National Housing Strategy, that act, in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, are we going to run some seminars this year?
So yes. So there'll be flag raisings. There's flag
Okay.
raisings all over. Last year, the county of Simcoe came on board, and they purchased flags for all the towns that want to do a flag
Oh,
raising.
okay.
So we have flags for everyone that wants to do
Okay.
one now, and that was great. And they helped spread the
Does it
word.
happen to have this message on it?
It has. That is the flag.
I'm a YIMBY. I'm a YIMBY.
That is the flag. The
Okay.
flag looks exactly like that. And then, so we do flag raisings in Barrie, and then Aurelia came on board, and then Midland came on board 3 years ago. Last year we had lots of towns as well,
Okay.
and out at the county admin building.
Nice.
And then Collingwood has joined this year.
This year.
So I
Yes.
believe the community is working on an event for the week as well.
Yes.
Through the housing.
Yes, so we will be doing a flag raising on Tuesday, May 20th. Like YIMBY week is the
Yep.
18th to the 24th.
Yep.
So we will be doing a flag raising in front of the library
Yep.
on May 20th at 4 o'clock.
I'll be there.
And then the very next day, we'll be kicking off what we're calling Collingwood Talks series.
Oh, okay.
And it will be held
What are we
at
going to talk about?
So we are going to talk about affordable housing and NIMBYism and YIMBYism and how we can make it work and general densification and getting people familiar with the issues
Yeah.
and you know removing the stigma, I think, really.
And I think stigma is a good word, but also, are we a community of NIMBYs?
And you know, the
Because
whole,
if you watch council like I do, there seem to be a lot of people who are against.
there are.
There are.
Things
And-
come
and
up, and that's fine, but just like not right here.
But you hear of the people who are against. You don't hear from the people who
are
are
for.
in favor of it. So
we're trying to put a
we need to
positive spin
build
on
that
this.
capacity in our community, and it's something that the Affordable Housing Task Force has started to work on.
Okay.
But what Deb was just mentioning is we're going to be using YIMBY Week as the kickoff for our conversation series, which
Okay.
will run about 18 months.
Okay.
And conversation is the best word for it because it is a two-way conversation where every month roughly we'll be having public conversations
Yep.
about different topics People will go into groups.
Yep.
One question. Answer this one big, hairy question.
Yep.
And come back, and the town and council and the task force, everybody's listening.
Yeah.
What is the community saying?
Yep.
How can we tailor things in our community that people can embrace? So we know we have to grow. We talked about those stats. How do you want to grow? Given that this is a fact, what
And it's
should it
not a
look like?
matter of annexing Clearview.
Right. So the question is, what should it look like? And you might have people come back, although I doubt it, and say, well, we should have 40-story apartment buildings and put them all in one building, and then that's that. You may have other people come back and say, well, we just shouldn't grow. That's not a fact of life. So we want to hear what people are saying, and there's a multitude of topics. So it's going to run about 18 months.
Okay, interesting. Because we've got a lot of people who can be supportive, but just not on my street. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know we're getting more and more, as I say, there's one on my street, they're ARUs now, aren't they? Additional residential units.
Yeah.
But I'm finding a lot of people who are doing some of those it's for granny to move in. It's for, whomever to move in. It's not for someone who currently doesn't have a place.
But here's the thing. So
Okay.
Granny probably needed affordable housing.
Yeah.
So
True, okay.
And she
and
probably freed
Granny
up
has vacated
Yeah, exactly.
a larger house
Yeah.
Yes,
or a
that's
larger
true.
home
Yeah.
that opens it up, hopefully, for another family to move
to
in.
move
So
into,
everything helps. Every time you create another unit
Absolutely.
of housing.
There's a trickle effect.
Yeah.
It's interesting as we go along, because I look at widowers, and they're staying in great big houses. Some are staying in great big houses.
They're overhoused.
They're very much overhoused. And I know there was a bit of a movement to try and say, like, have a student move in, if somebody's at Georgian or whatever, move in, help out with the chores. I'm not sure that really took off with anybody.
Especially during COVID.
Well,
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
especially
Which is
during
kind
COVID.
of-
When a lot of
Yeah.
that was being
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another tool in
Yeah.
the toolbox,
Yeah.
right? That somebody can certainly work on.
Absolutely. Shared living or co-living
Okay.
is some of what we call it sometimes. But for a lot of people, it also offsets like the loneliness
Yeah.
factor. So we
Yes.
have an affordable housing crisis, but you also have a loneliness and
Yeah.
mental health
Very
crisis,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, just living with a roomie.
And it's, and honestly, it's healthier.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So as we go along. So I'm excited about the 18 months of, are they in, these are going to be in person?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
going to tape them so people can go back and watch them?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that's
We are having our very first
Yeah.
organizing meeting on this, I think,
Yeah.
next week, if I'm
Sometime.
not mistaken.
Sometime
It's coming
soon,
very
yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
so I can't answer.
Yeah.
This is really new. This is hot
Yeah.
off the press.
Because I can tell you, I mean, even some organizations that I've gone to meetings, somebody just sets up a stand with their an iPhone or a whatever the generic phone is, the other Android. There we go.
That's a very good idea.
And they just put it on a stand and it runs, and it's amazing up close. It can pick up all the voices, picks up some of the questions, and it's just a chance you could put it online. And if somebody misses it,
And they can see.
they can take a look at it, or if they're too shy to go.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
we hope people won't be.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be starting a newsletter that hopefully also will kick.
Okay.
We've got a lot of stuff we want to
Okay.
kick off during YIMBY
Okay.
week, but that people can sign up for. Of course, it's free.
Yep.
They can
Yep.
unsubscribe anytime, but it'll tell them about upcoming events like that.
Yeah.
We did one in October. It
Yeah,
was
good. I'm glad
phenomenal.
you mentioned that.
And
yeah.
almost everybody who left that session, really,
Yeah.
I think maybe everybody said,
Yeah.
when can we do this again?
Okay.
It was.
It was amazing.
Magic. It was
Now, were they
magic.
all
Yeah.
currently on your side, or did you convert a few people?
No, oh no.
Okay.
I mean, it was a real mix of community.
Okay.
And it's when we were talking about changing the bylaw to allow 4 units
Yep.
and
Yep.
reduce parking requirements.
Yep.
Yep.
And so it was kind of put to the crowd, and everybody worked. And out of that came real golden nuggets of great ideas that ultimately made it into the final recommendations.
Interesting.
So it was a really valuable community conversation, and we said, We could start doing this about everything.
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that mayors have told us about YIMBY Week is that when people show up, even if you don't know all the answers before you ask the questions, but if you show up, even if you don't understand everything about it, even if you just ask a disruptive question like, how does this impact affordable housing? Does this create affordable housing? You know, questions like that, it gives...
Starts a dialogue.
It starts a dialogue, and it gives the council the courage to do what they know they should do, actually. What's best. Because sometimes YIMBYs don't speak up because they don't know if they have the right words or if they have, you know what I mean? So often
Most people don't speak up because they don't want to be made fun of.
There are a lot of silent YIMBYs. So if we can, even just a lawn sign helps people, or a couple good questions that they can ask during a council meeting, it helps them speak up.
Really good point.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're up to our next break, so join us when we come back, and we're going to continue this conversation about everybody becoming a YIMBY. Welcome back. This week I'm very pleased to have a discussion about affordable housing, rental markets with, I'm going to say 3 experts. 2 are on the town's Affordable Housing Task Force. That would be Councillor Deb Doherty and Marg Scheben-Edey. Are you the chief poobah or?
Nope, I'm just a housing baddie.
Housing.
My new term.
Your new term. I like it. I like it. And Jennifer Van Gennip. So, Redwood Park Communities, based in Barrie,
Yes.
creator of YIMBY. Did you create YIMBY?
So there
Or
are
are
other
there
YIMBYs.
there are other YIMBYs?
There are
Okay.
other YIMBYs.
Okay.
We created this YIMBY Week, and our
Okay.
tagline is, because everyone deserves a safe, affordable, hopeful place to call home.
Okay.
And when that's the case, our entire community benefits.
Okay.
So we're actually all better off when we all have a place to call
The
home.
one thing I will say, we live in a community that has very big heart.
Yes.
And I think we should all be looking inward a little bit and ordering our lawn sign. We really, really should. And put them up and say, okay, I'm a housing advocate. I'm a housing baddie. There's your new tagline. So are there communities in Canada that do this well? Is there anybody more advanced than we are, or is everybody struggling at the same rate?
I think Whistler historically
interesting.
has done a good job because they, back 25 years ago, were building employee housing.
Okay.
So not quite the same, but recognizing that
They were a little remote and they wanted people.
Yeah, that's right. So where are we going to put them? At the wages that we pay.
Yeah.
So I think that they were very good at that.
But they're struggling now.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. Everywhere is.
Yeah.
Hamilton needs some good progress for a while.
Okay.
And it also depends on what metric you're using, because
Okay.
like Calgary has done a lot of good work of getting people moved out of their shelters into housing.
Okay.
And then Fredericton has the 12 Neighbors
Okay.
community, which I visited, and it was just really something to see with the tiny houses. There's pockets. I would be hard pressed to name a municipality or a city or a town that has it sorted.
Do not-for-profits sort of take the lead in this aspect in our country?
Often.
Often. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure not every municipality
That's
has a
big
housing
discussion.
advocacy group.
Do you know, in Collingwood,
Not
we
ev-
have
no,
just
not everyone.
seeded the formation of one.
Right.
Yeah.
Collingwood put out a request for proposals, some money available to seed the formation of a not-for-profit group that could develop, own, manage affordable
Okay.
housing, and that has been awarded.
Okay.
There's the group that, it's very new,
Yeah.
so they have not yet really got any kind of a public profile.
Okay.
But we haven't had a group like that up to this point, so Collingwood hasn't even been in a position to apply for government funding, or anything else.
What about the Beach Street development? The old
Birch Street?
The Birch. Yeah, my friends on Birch will be mad at me. The Johnson Apartments.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is exciting. Now that's it's a town
You now own it.
initiative, but now it's being driven by the county.
Okay.
It's a partnership.
Okay.
It's a partnership.
Okay.
And we right now can house 16 people. So the proposal is
In the
that
old
we
bread
would-
factory.
in the proposal is
Yeah.
now that we would build a 3-story building that would house 30
Okay.
people
Okay.
at affordable rents.
Rates. Okay.
So that project is just about at the approval stage.
Okay. At the county level.
And at the county level and the municipal level, because
Okay.
they still have to, answer all of our
Yeah.
bylaws and regulations. But we anticipate that they are going to be well underway by, if not late 2025, then early 2026.
Okay. What happens to the people who are living there now?
So
That famous question.
yes.
No, it's all
So
good.
we between the town and the county have
Yeah.
committed to providing them with alternate housing
Okay.
at the same rents that they're paying now.
Okay.
And they will have first right of refusal
To come back?
move into the new building.
It's great.
At the same
So-
rents they're paying now.
Yeah,
So
no one
brand new,
is going
improved,
to
safe.
be unhoused.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was a brainchild of Johnny Johnson's way back when.
And this very much honors what he wanted. He wanted it
Yeah.
to be affordable for the people who were living there.
I'd love it if the
And this
town would
will
still call it the
expand
Johnson
it.
Apartments. I think
We
that would
still
be-
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's- yeah.
I don't know what the county will do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be a nice honor, considering.
It's true.
Because
Yeah.
he was a gentleman who had a hardware store. And that isn't what brought him to town, but he eventually had a hardware store, and he employed lots of people, and he had a building company on the side and different things. And when his guys weren't busy, he found jobs for them to do. And that's how the Johnson Apartments came. And then he did it in conjunction, partnered with Rotary to manage it.
Yeah.
And the town.
I did not
and
know that story.
Kept going on.
actually. Yeah.
There are a lot of places around you'll
50
hear the
years
word
ago.
Johnny Johnson.
Yeah.
So he was a wonderful, very civic-minded gentleman who came out from England. So, but he loved Collingwood. And I think those are the things, maybe we need more of the smaller developers who look at things and say, let's add to let's do a great big tote board. Wouldn't that be fun to do? Oh, we got another unit. We got another unit.
And we have had success over the last year with the rapid deployment of the ARU program.
Yes.
I think we did
we'll always call it ADU 'cause that's
23
where it started.
additional units,
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
over the year before. Like we're starting to see
Some results.
some success.
Oh, yeah.
We have a major developer in the community who has agreed to put roughed-in basement apartments in every unit that they sell,
okay.
which is a big
That's a big
thing
That's a
to
big
get
deal.
there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do that.
No.
No.
Because
the
the
$1
problem
million
is,
donation, we
what
have.
about plumbing? What about
So yeah, to do it afterwards,
Yeah.
because I have
It's
a
expensive.
legal basement apartment.
Okay.
And we turned an illegal basement apartment into a legal basement
Legal,
apartment when we
yes.
moved in, and it costs a lot.
Really a
So
lot.
if it's roughed in, that's thousands of
That's a
dollars
yeah.
saved.
That's a win.
And we've also had some really creative developers who are doing small projects like 4, 5, 8 units that have come and talked to the task force and said, I have this idea, but the town says it doesn't fit in zoning. What should I do? And the town is so behind this and saying, okay, well, let's talk about it. We're doing a new zoning bylaw right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do we need to adjust zoning to do these creative
Hey,
things?
I saw the long list. Mayor Hamlin has the superpowers now, I call them.
Yeah, strong mayor powers.
No,
Yes.
it's superpowers. That might come in handy.
I don't think she need, when it comes to housing, she does, I mean, this
Yes.
council
Supportive
is so
council.
united
Yeah.
on housing, it's phenomenal.
Well, we're almost down to our last few minutes. What haven't we talked about that we would like to share with the viewing audience? What's important?
I think you touched on the rapid ADU or rapid ARU program, and I think it's worth mentioning again because we are endeavoring to make it as easy as possible for someone to put an accessory dwelling
On
either
their property.
on their property or in their basement, build a
Okay.
basement apartment. So we're expediting their approvals, their building permits. We've reduced the permit fees.
Okay.
We have now 4 different designs, like off-the-shelf designs, so that they're automatically approved by the building department. Because and so you can just take a design and have it
Does that
implemented and
Shorten the-
First in Ontario.
shorten the
Oh yeah!
paperwork.
Oh, it shortens the approval process, saves them money, and we are offering grants of up to $10,000
Okay.
to assist in the building of
Okay.
an accessory dwelling, with no strings attached.
Okay.
The county offers another up to $30,000.
Okay.
However, you do need to make a commitment on title that it would be rented at affordable rates.
Affordable rates, okay, if you go for the county money.
But there's $40,000.
How many people have taken up the ARU program?
We've got a total of about 40 now.
I think so, yeah.
In
That's more than I would have thought.
2023, which was the year before
Yep.
we implemented this program, we had 8 applications for ADUs or ARUs. I'm gonna get used to
You would-
that.
You always call
Now-
it
We're
when
having
it
a
was
hard
first
time
called.
getting
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
it, yeah.
So each year it has more than doubled.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think
is it a
last year was
massive
23, I
number?
think.
No, it's not a map, but every year
Every
it
unit
grows.
counts.
Every
Yeah.
unit counts.
Hey, you know, 40 there, Birch Street
Yeah.
30, some of the other developments that are happening, like, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, there's 100, and then you're a year later and you're going, wow, there's 1,000. There's,
Yeah.
But I think the one other thing that I would want to say is, I know everybody's like, well, where's the shovel in the ground?
Yeah.
And we're the same way. And for me, being part of the process in the last 4 years, I say, you have to build a foundation before you build the house. And we have now built the foundation. It's
Okay.
taken time,
Yep.
but we have now built the foundation.
Well, you build a
that-
solid foundation.
a very solid foundation.
Yeah.
We've changed our official plan, our zoning bylaw. Like, we have done so many things, and we are now forerunners in the country. That's why we've been asked to speak at this awesome conference that Deb mentioned. But think of it that way. We had to build that foundation. It wasn't there, and now it is. So Collingwood should be very proud of that. But now we need the community to help us take it to those next steps.
This is where we're going to the heart of the community to say, hopefully, be a NIMBY. Order a
No, don't be a NIMBY.
Oh, YIMBY. Please be a YIMBY. Order a lawn sign, and show your public support.
Exactly.
I think this is something, because you might find walking the dog, somebody's going to stop you and say, what's that YIMBY thing about? And you have an opportunity for a conversation. So Jennifer, Marg, and Deb, thank you very much for spending an hour with me, and I hope everybody learned something. Let's all be YIMBYs. See you next time.